Hello, in this video I'm going to explain where it can help to have a long-term focus to think about the future and the power of determination and perseverance. So with that said, let's crack into it. So in a recent video, I talked about how many people find that mindfulness, right, a sense of connection to and appreciation of the present moment, can be very useful in terms of managing emotions, staying well, and enjoying life just that little bit more. However, I wanted to talk a bit more about a different idea, and this is having a future focus and the determination and perseverance to see things through over the longer term. See, sometimes the present moment situation might not be ideal. You might have issues at work, issues at home, issues with your health. And although it is good to cultivate awareness of these situations and perhaps cultivate gratitude of the now, sometimes, very often in fact, it's necessary to think about how you're going to get to the next stage and how you can develop the right kind of attitude to see things through over the longer term. And this is so that you can improve your situation and reap the benefits of that. So we're talking about having a future focus. So if you want to get from A to B, it's probably going to require not only that you work hard, but also work smart as well. And this is because just working hard might not yield you the results that you want. So if you think about, say, work, it might be that just working more hours makes you more exhausted, which makes you more likely to burn out, which actually prevents you from achieving the very thing you were trying to set out to do in the first place, which is do better in your job or get a promotion or whatever it is. A construction worker might work as hard as a knowledge worker. So someone working on a construction site might be exerting as much effort as somebody working in an office, but they might not get as much out of it because they might be in a job which they don't like. They might not earn quite as much. They might not get as good career opportunities, and they might not consider that there could be better options out there. So part of working smart is knowing your limitations, understanding the field that you're in, and not necessarily thinking that just working more and more and more is necessarily the best option. I do often think about the future and how I can make the next stage of my life go smoothly, right? You don't need to delay having an enjoyable time until the future necessarily. You don't have to think, I couldn't possibly derive any enjoyment from things until I'm in that new job, which might take me 2 or 3 years to get to. But you can enjoy the process of moving forwards towards your goals, right? Moving towards goals, building skills, building connections, whatever it might be, you can enjoy the forward movement. So I encourage you with any goal that you have to think about, yes, the enjoyment side of it, but also the strategy side of it and how you can ensure that it goes smoothly, that you will move forward to the next thing after that, and things like having a backup plan if your first idea doesn't work out for whatever reason. So the next topics that I want to talk about in today's video are perseverance and inspiration. I've talked a little bit about motivation on this channel before, not quite as much as some of the other subjects because it's something which I don't know quite as much about. But I have made a video where I talk about positive and negative motivations. So sometimes it might be that we are trying to escape a certain situation, whereas other times it might be that we're trying to move towards something. And sometimes the boundaries between the two types are not very clear, but it can be a useful framework for thinking about some of these issues. And sometimes the hope of a better future is part of what motivates people and helps them to succeed. So there are countless examples in history, maybe even in the people that you know in the real world, where people's persistence and refusal to give up were key factors in their overall success. So if you think about someone like Nelson Mandela, he was imprisoned for 27 years before becoming president of South Africa and helping to dismantle apartheid. Now, for a lot of people, 27 years in prison might be enough to just finish them completely. But for Mandela, not only did he survive the ordeal, he actually went on to do some of his most impactful work afterwards. This is just one example of many, many different examples where someone was able to develop the courage, the determination, and the persistence to commit to certain ideals and goals, and they saw it through over the longer term. I personally find that learning about these kinds of people really helps to motivate and inspire me, because even though someone like Mandela is a famous example, he was a human being. And even if we don't end up being quite as impactful as he was, we may nevertheless be able to not only meet, but overcome, or at least manage, the challenges that we are faced with. Mandela, obviously, famous example, but he was a human being like you and I. He was flesh and blood, right? I know that in my own life, long-term persistence has proven invaluable to the modest amount of success that I've had and my well-being, and it continues to be an important part of my existence. And part of this, by the way, is being inspired by these kinds of figures who've overcome adversity and persisted over the long term. Just reading books, learning about these different people, Mandela, Stephen Hawking, people like Tony Robbins. He had a very rough upbringing, but for him to be doing what he is now, considering where he came from, is very impressive indeed. And as I said, one of the important things to remember is that these are people we can learn from and aspire to emulate in some way. So the phenomenon of long-term persistence has also been studied in psychology, where psychological traits such as grit have been shown to be even more important to long-term success than things like IQ. This is what some studies have suggested, at least. The science on it is quite complicated, so I'll just link you to the Wikipedia article where you can learn more about this. But the name of the game, at least for a lot of successful people, is not giving up, right? Not giving up over the longer term. Now, sometimes it can be the right thing to give up on certain projects or strategies if you've tried them out and it's just not working. Sometimes if you've repeatedly tested something and it just doesn't seem to be a good strategy, these projects need to be abandoned if they've been proven to be flawed. If another strategy or idea seems a lot more promising, maybe a different career path or a different place to live, if these ideas seem more promising, then in a lot of instances it makes sense to switch over. I used to have different career plans to the ones that I do now, but even though I gave up on the old plans, I didn't abandon the idea of creating a meaningful, enjoyable, and worthwhile career in general. I just changed my plans, changed my focus, and I haven't got, the entirety of my future set in stone yet, but I have a decent sense of where I'm going, at least for the next few years. Something else that is important to note is that people do need to rest to prevent burnout. So if you fall ill, you do need to take time off work. If you have a breakup with a partner, then it's going to affect your well-being most likely. And it's probably unreasonable to expect yourself to be able to go full pelt when something like this takes place. But there is a difference between taking a rest, taking a break, or recharging, or whatever it is, and abandoning something completely. Sometimes people need to take big chunks of time away from certain projects. But even if you have to do that, you don't have to think that it's gone forever, right? You can come back to things after a break, but this requires that kind of perseverance and an awareness of the long game, essentially. Overall, one of the points I want to make here is that even if things might not be going quite as well for you now in terms of your situation, remember the points I've made so far about how perseverance can pay off, about how there are examples of people who have made it over turbulent times and how they managed to overcome adversity, and how you can use that as a source of inspiration for you to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve in this life. And that's basically it. So I want to thank you very much for watching today's video. It's been quite fun talking up here in front of the camera. I'm going to have more content for you on the way soon. And I want to thank you for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.